it's a really interesting perspective because you're able to give it from both ends, obviously as a fighter.
That's
and
what she
someone who's
said. Sorry. Sorry.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Beefing with Ben. Tonight, I have the pleasure to talk with WMMA pioneer, Julie Kedzie. You may know her from her fights if you were, watching back then, like I was at some point. Oh, God, I've been watching for that long. Wow.
Back in 1910.
More recently, you might know her from her role with Invicta FC as commentator, matchmaker, interviewer, pretty much everything that you could think of. She's done it with the company. So Julie, first of all, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be on. You've had some really high profile guests. So I feel like I'm sorry you had to take a step down.
hardly would consider this a step down in any way, shape, or form. Well, Julie, first of all, enjoy the jerky. Open up whatever flavors you want as we go through, but I think it's time for us to settle some beef. Let's jump into it. I love to start with like the early life and what got people to do what they did. And you have an interesting background because your whole family is kind of an academic family. I know that you started Taekwondo at around 4 or 5 years old. So talk to me about that kind of background and how it, parlayed it into how you parlayed it to MMA. Talk to us about it.
Well, I think there's actually a lot of really bright and academically minded fighters, and there's a lot of really stupid fighters who are very academic, and a lot of really smart fighters who are not academic. But there's a whole mix. Like, this whole sport is a continuum. There's a lot of people who are incredibly intelligent who maybe never pursue more education than they ever wanted to pursue or can't pursue it. There's a lot of people who have really high advanced degrees that are absolute morons. So, it's something to keep in mind. And, fighting is definitely all encompassing. In my case, I come from a family of pretty high achievers, and martial arts, I think, enhance that a lot. We grew up with a sense of discipline, a sense of, pushing yourself. Whether or not that is solely due to martial arts, I don't think so, because my mother is, she went back to pursue her PhD in neurobiology when we were kids, and she didn't care for Taekwondo or martial arts at all. and so, it's one of those things. But I do think the discipline and stuff, it helped a lot, and it definitely gave me some kind of focus, because I'm very competitive, and my older sister is very competitive, and I think it's also enhanced by a strong sprinkling of ADHD that we all have. And so it's just kind of like, find something to do, hyper focus on it, go, find the next thing to do, hyper focus on it, go, you know what I mean? So I was pre-law. My family's mostly scientists, and I was an English major, loved literature, loved art. I studied art first and then went into English because it was easier. I'm not a talented artist. I'm okay. I enjoy it, but I'm better at writing. But there are connections between art and writing and martial art. All of it is connected. You just, I struggle from pretty strong epiphania in all aspects of my life. But I would say that one, it's all art, it's all science, it's all discipline. And for me, I was pre-law. I really, really loved the law. I was like a huge constitutionalist. Really wanted to be a public defender. I've become extremely jaded with American politics in the US Supreme Court as of late. And that's probably, a privileged answer at this point, but it's where I am. But instead of law, like I was pre-law, and I was still doing martial arts in college. And I don't know, I saw a hook and shoot. Well, first of all, I saw a UFC, and I thought it was the most boring thing I'd ever seen in my life, because it was all grappling. It was Hoist Gracie Ken Shamrock 3. I have to say that's really ironic given my UFC fights, where I was basically just holding on, especially my UFC debut, where it was just like clinching against the cage the entire time anyway. But, for me to be all judgmental, but, there you go. But I found it incredibly boring. I was like, I wanted to see them hit each other. And I loved watching boxing. But after watching that fight, a friend put in Hook and Shoot Revolution with Debbie Purcell and Tara LaRosa and all these people who it completely inspired me. And I was like, no, the women are way more interesting, and they look like me. They've got shoulders like me, like I've always been kind of a thick, strong girl. And it was kind of a place for me. I saw myself in that. especially with my martial arts experience. And so that started my journey. And my debut fight was with Hook and Shoot, which was kind of a great convergence of circumstance. Yeah, so that's kind of how it started. When my whole family they were like, okay, well, when are you going to go to grad school though? When are you going to do this? When are you going to go to law school?
You got there eventually.
Yeah, I did.
You got that
I
master's
did.
eventually.
I did. I knew it was going to happen. And it wasn't the field that I thought, but it was probably a better field than law for me. So yeah.
Well, it's also, we should mention, you did actually win the Hook and Shoot Grand Prix as well. And you got to fight some of those same people that you were watching on TV as well. So watching on those tapes as well. So that's gotta have been an interesting feeling. I can't imagine.
I think we all look back at the past and we're like, oh, wow, that was such a golden time, such a wonderful time. And I look at now, and if I want to be real smart, like honestly, face reality, that's not a golden time. We were finding fights against people out of our weight classes through the internet, through this, you know what I mean? So we always have this kind of fondness or this, idea of how the past was a magical time. And in a way it was, because women really had to fight for each other and against each other. And now things are more professionalized. There are more opportunities. It's better for women now. It is way better for women. This is what I fought for, in the arc of my career. But it's hard not to feel fond or look at it with kind of a golden haze of like, oh yeah, we were all so great back then. I mean, it's like, no, I got my ass kicked all the time, and I didn't have proper training in the beginning. It wasn't because my coaches weren't proper coaches, it's because I didn't know how to do it. It's but that's also kind of fun. That speaks to the life of a fighter. Fighting before the commissions were regulated. That's it was a fun time, but it's better for people now.
Well, akin to the Wild West is probably a good way to describe it, or the romanticized version of the Wild West.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the one where we don't talk about the cholera.
Yes.